Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to another edition of Stars, Stripes, and Anfield Nights. With me this week, I have Toby, Colin, and Brandon. We'll start with Toby. Toby, how you doing?
Oh man, I'm doing great. Can't wait to talk about some Liverpool football. And man, I gotta say, how about Curtis Jones on Sunday, man, the myth, the legend. Hell of a game from Curtis Jones.
100%. We were talking about that last week, and we can come on this Tuesday night with a smile on our faces. Curtis Jones definitely stepping up. But Colin, how you been, man?
Doing okay. Glad to be back with friends and talk about a great win. I got to rub it in my brother's face throughout throughout the week, and we got to watch it together at went to one of our favorite local places, and it was a great time. It would not have been so enjoyable if we would have lost. Especially given I did not know this. He sort of lured me into this, especially now knowing that the owners and proprietors of that bar are Chelsea fans. So it was a great experience as is, but yeah, maybe not so good if we would have lost.
100%. And looks like you got the last laugh. Fingers crossed the streak of beating Chelsea continues. Uh, we've had the luck over them recently. Long may it continue. But Brandon, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. Glad to be here. Been a few weeks. I'm just glad to get here to talk about the Reds. A big week ahead, massive week ahead, really, as we coming up on the weekend. A big game not to forget about tomorrow either.
100%. First off, Jay Muse, good to see you. Got some good-looking gents in the chat, or on the panel and in the chat as well. Anyone who wants to participate, please get your comments and questions in. We'll be happy to bring them up and address them throughout the stream. Brandon, Toby started off calling out Curtis James's performance from the weekend versus Chelsea. I know you have a hoodoo where you don't always like to watch the game because you somehow think you jinxed the game.
Yeah.
But were you able to catch the game this weekend? And if so, what was your favorite part?
I'll have to say I think the jinx might be broken because I wasn't able to watch the first half because I was my family was like I got to go see my family. My sister came down with a new baby, so I was kind of busy in the first half, and then I got to go inside. And as soon as I went inside was when Curtis scored the go-ahead goal. So I was like, I think the jinx is officially broken. So I'm now allowed to watch Liverpool games like all full 90s again because it's been a while since I've been allowed to. So. No, I think it's over. I think it's finally over. Threw a little salt over my shoulder. Said a prayer to Robbie Fowler, and called it a day.
And was there a favorite part you had in the game, or something that you want to call out and highlight from the game that you appreciated?
Curtis Jones is probably the easiest one to call out. I mean, I know me. I feel like you, me, Drew, have been really big kind of fans of Curtis, and I feel like some people's hate of him has been a little bit overblown, especially towards the end of last season where everybody was playing bad for some reason. Curtis really got singled out in that. I don't think Curtis is like a world-class player. I don't think he's got that in his locker, but the fact that he is a very, very useful squad player to have at a team at level of Liverpool. He can do just about every midfield role. He can provide an assist. He can score a goal. He does his defensive work. He does basically everything. He's like McAllister, but just not as good. But that's not saying anything bad because McAllister is world-class. That's like saying a striker's not as good as Holland. It's like, yeah, there's very few that are. So, I mean, I think Curtis's performance was great. I thought Joe, after his weird little poke out of when he thought Kelleher was going to run to the edge of the box to claim a ball and he decided to kick it out for a corner. After that moment, I thought he was immense the rest of the way. I thought he was perfect. So I think having him come on, kind of shore up the game was really good. And then, Curtis has got to be the big talking point of all the whole game.
Yeah, definitely. It's my thing was always his injury record. I felt like he never had the luck with injuries, and I'm always backing someone who's from Liverpool to play for the team because they're going to give it that extra 10%, in my opinion. But hopefully, fingers crossed, there's no eye infection or anything like that keeps him out for 3 months this year. But Colin, how about you? Were you able to catch the game, and what for you were the highlights?
Oh yeah, I really I was rather impressed with Chelsea's organization. If I'm being honest with you, I thought their game plan was pretty effective. the sort of hybrid zonal man marking and really kind of being aggressive in kind of pushing up to mark. That being said, I thought Gravenberch again was like so good. And a more quiet game, not someone who was just on the ball and in possession constantly, but when he needed to get out, I'm thinking of one turn, kind of feint turn past Romeo Lavia, who again, I thought Romeo Lavia was like really, really good for Chelsea. I thought a lot of what Chelsea did was really rather good, and like a drop of a shoulder and a pretended like he wasn't there from Gravenberch was like I thought really outside of the goals, I thought a real highlight of the game and something that sticks out to me.
Yeah, it's almost like it's almost Thiago-esque in my mind, like how he can shake off a player. Like Thiago had that little like shoulder shimmy, but
yeah,
like you said, like Gravenberch drops a shoulder, like steps around and like can turn a player on a dime.
Can you imagine being like as large as Gravenberch at like 6'2", and just like he's like 6'2", but like he's like 80% legs, and can just move in the way that he does. Like Thiago's like a solid 5'8", 5'7", 5'8", and just being able to have that kind of size and be able to move with the fluidity that he does, like, is so impressive. I'm constantly like, oh yeah, that's the one for the future. Like you just build off of that skill set. It's so rare to find. Couldn't be happier that he's on the team.
Definitely. And as Toby's about to answer the last question on the Chelsea game, please, if you're watching, get in the comments. Let us know what your highlight of the Chelsea game was, and we'll bring it up on screen and discuss as well. Toby, you mentioned Curtis Jones to kick us off on the stream on a performance was definitely should be recognized and praiseworthy. Was there anything in particular about his performance or another element from the Chelsea game that you want to highlight?
Yeah, so sticking with Curtis Jones, I want to like one moment that stuck out to me was like within the first 5 minutes, how he just did like a little spin around on Cole Palmer. I knew from that moment forward, Cole Palmer was in for a long day. But moving on to just the Chelsea game, contrary to popular belief, I actually thought Liverpool played a solid game. Yeah, I think Chelsea had more possession, and sure that they had 12 shots, but 2 of those were only on target. I think that's a testament to how good Liverpool has been defensively. To add on, I think Liverpool allowed Chelsea to play their style game while allowing Liverpool to play with their style of game. I think, as Jay Muse has pointed out in the comment, Slot plays a 40 chess and pulled back the reins a bit and fixture congestion and the international break. I wholeheartedly agree. This was kind of a chess game where it's like, yes, we're going to let Chelsea have the ball. We're going to let them do what they're going to do. They're going to get their goals. They're going to score. I mean, I think prior to the game, they had 16 goals all season. I mean, in Premier League play all season. But while doing that, it allowed Liverpool to play defensively, allowed to play their game, to dictate the pace, and just play their style of game.
Yeah, it was really interesting to see the changes to the starting lineup, and as you said, like the way he set up. Like, as we all know, when we came back from the last international break, wasn't so joyous a Tuesday having to discuss Nottingham Forest beating us at Anfield, but Slot making the changes with like Gakpo on the wing, in the midfield, Jones, like the smaller changes, but enough to give some players from South America traveling back a rest. And as you said, let Chelsea have much of the ball. I don't know how much that was planned, but it kind of looked like we were more settled and at least didn't expend as much energy as you could imagine under a Klopp game. So got the win at the most important part at the end of the day. But as I believe, Brandon, you were mentioning before our big Arsenal game on the weekend, next game in the Premier League, we have a huge game against Leipzig tomorrow. And definitely early doors in the Champions League group stage. It's one I'm still not sure how many games we need to win until we can guarantee progression, or at least jump over that hurdle of the knockout game. But the traveling squad to Leipzig is Gomez, Endo, Van Dijk, Konate, Diaz, Szoboszlai, Nunez, McAllister, Salah, Jones, Gakpo, Tsimikas, Robertson, Gravenberch, Jaros, Kelleher, Alexander-Arnold, Quansah, Morton, Davies, and Nyoni. The notable mentions or missouts are Chiesa, Jota, and sorry, I had one more. My thing is, maybe that's it. Maybe it's Chiesa and Jota. Is anyone else?
Elliot and Alliston, I believe. I know those two are injured as well.
Thank you, Toby. It's been a while since.
Bradley too.
Yep. That rounds up the 5. Apologies for not having that offhand. But it's definitely a big game tomorrow. We have Leipzig, who are, I believe, tied on points with Bayern Munich in Bundesliga. So off to a firing start there. Start with you, Colin. How important is this game tomorrow, traveling away?
Well, all of the games in the group stage for the Champions League are really important. I think I saw something that I don't know that there can be really guaranteed, like a guaranteed qualification for the next round until like the 6th out of 8 game weeks, unless unless there were to be like 2 teams that had not lost and a bunch of teams that lost a bunch of games. So I don't think this is going to be settled for quite a while. Just putting the emphasis on, it's going to take a lot of wins to get through automatically. Like there's a lot of really, really good teams, and even the teams who are not, who are not maybe playing as well as normally, like let's say, AC Milan, for example, who played today, like someone who are not on the top of their game, but like are still like deeply dangerous on their day. There's a lot of really good teams. And they were, AC Milan was like second best in play to Club Brugge for like quite a while. So there are teams that can really hurt you. I think Leipzig are one of those teams. Like if you don't come into that game, first of all, it's away from home, always a trickier game and a trickier fixture than playing at home. If you don't come right and if you don't come correct, like that is a team that will beat you. They will be organized. They will be, with a specific game plan. They will be ready to pounce if the opportunity is there. So I think it's a really important game. I think in the context of the fixture list as well, it starts to compound. I've got full faith in them though. I don't feel worried. I just feel ready for a real game. Like I think it is not going to be a walk in the park.
It definitely feel I have the same feelings as you about that. Feel ready, but not going to be a walk in the park. And as you said, like you can't, like you have to most likely get to 6 games of wins to maybe advance through that knockout round, and that could be a huge 2 games avoided at that stage of the season. So kind of can make up for the extra 2 games on this lack of group or new format of group stage. But Brandon, how, like with the fixture list piling up, as Colin mentioned, do you take any kind of rest for the players into Leipzig? Are you starting a changed lineup, or are you going strongest lineup possible?
Strongest lineup possible would be like, you got to win the games. You got to put the points in the bag. You can't well, they'll be there later. We can't guarantee that later. So to take care of business now, move forward with points. Because also, I mean, Leipzig hasn't gotten any points yet in the Champions League. So, I mean, this is going to be a big game for them. Like, if they're wanting to try to advance further, they need points out of that game tomorrow. So it's going to be a big atmosphere, be a big game. It's going to be a good test for our players as well. It's not a game to play a rotated squad. It's a game to play your best. Maybe like 1 or 2 changes, but nothing overhauling. No, like I don't think you need to start like Tsimikas, or you don't need to change up the midfield too much. You don't need to change all that much. It really should be kind of your strongest 11. Probably get Lucho back in the starting lineup, and maybe that might be the only change from the weekend that I can think of off the top of my head. Yeah, this is a big game. It's better to get the points in the bag as quick as possible. Like if the target is getting 6 wins, let's win the first 6 and then worry about the other 3 or the other 2. I still don't know how this system completely works. So, I mean, I'm going to misquote these games. So,
absolutely, I could be making I thought there was 8 games, but I'm pretty sure it could be 6. It could.
Well,
the format is deeply confusing.
I think the target, if you win 6 of the 8, you will more than likely be in that top 8. So that's why I keep saying get 6 wins out of the 8 and then worry about the other 2 games later.
Why make it easy?
Right.
All right. If it's not broke, just keep fixing it. And I'm trying to bring up the Champions League table really quickly. Because it's something I think we're all getting used to. No slot in this press conference.
That's what I gotta say. Is Villa's at the top. So,
and his press conference, Slava's basically got asked about what he thinks about the new Champions League group stage, and he's basically like, I won't really know what to think until it's over. So I feel like that's kind of the general consensus where we're all. It's all a new experience, and we won't have our final feelings and say on it until it's done. But Brandon, as you said, Aston Villa at the top of the table with 9 points. Right now, they're the only one with a perfect record. But I guess Brest, Benfica, Leverkusen, Liverpool, that's it. Brest, Leverkusen, Liverpool, and Benfica have a chance to join Aston Villa at the top of the table with 9 points. Toby, at this early stage, is it just to focus on win your next game, or are there any particular opponents that you think are showing early signs of being ones to avoid later on?
Yeah, so I'm with the rest of the panel here. Just like the system, I don't really know. I haven't really done any research or extensive research on this new format. But I just say just keep winning. That's just why complicate things. Just keep winning. As far as teams go, I'm currently looking at the table right now. Bayer Leverkusen, excuse me. They're sitting 8th right now on the table. They've scored 5 goals while conceding 0. That's gonna be a big game coming up. Let's not forget the former champions or the current champions or whichever, Real Madrid. Just earlier today, I swear to God, when I checked my phone, they were losing 2-0 to Borussia Dortmund. And then I checked when I got home around 7:30, and they won 5-2. I couldn't believe that. So there's still some big games coming up. And I going back to Bayer Leverkusen, I believe that game is the next Champions League game after that RB Leipzig. So none of these games are going to be cakewalks in the park. And I just say keep winning, put out your best starting 11. If there's a tactical advantage in putting certain players out there, go for it. But just keep winning. That's all I can say. Just keep winning.
Totally agree. It's the safe bet. We're not going to know how much leeway you have with this new system until it's done. But early games we've done well. Slot has had an amazing start to this season, and one of the maybe clouds that you could call it lingering over the early stages of Slot's reign at Liverpool is the contract situation. And that's just going to be the case, especially until January. Then it could really heat up, depending on if we've had any progress on any of the 3 contracts. But I guess David Lynch, Liverpool correspondent, had the quote that obvious discussions are ongoing with Virgil van Dijk. We'll see what happens in the future. Is focused fully on Liverpool, wanting to win games that are ahead and nothing else. So it seems like we're getting this feedback that the players are interested. Another, I won't call this a reliable source, but somebody in the Liverpool sphere of news mentioned that Trent's contract talks are positive, that he's still negotiating and he wants to stay at Liverpool. So it's still this dance around contracts. But Colin, what are you hopeful at this point, or is it the longer that it goes on, the more doubts that you have over the contract situations?
The news and the rumors that keep seeming to circulate indicate that I should be encouraged, and they indicate that I should be that I should have a positive attitude about how the how contract negotiations go, and they certainly do go back and forth. My brain is not allowing me to be encouraged, unfortunately. Until there is, and every time I get a notification from the Liverpool app on my phone, I'm like, oh, is this the one? Oh, is this the one where I get a contract? And then I got like was it a Jaros Quansah like contract, contract blast from, and I was like, that's not the one that I was looking for. I'm happy, but that's not what I wanted. Until it's signed and sent to the world, I'm deeply skeptical of any of these getting done, and I just unfortunately wish that I was allowing myself to see it differently.
Yeah, I'm not a pessimistic person, so I think somehow it's gonna get done. But I'm also like, I don't want to think about it. Like, I'm not thinking about it. And we'll see. I think if January comes, that will be when a little panic creeps in. But I remember Slot's press conference. I don't know if it was pre Leipzig, the one today, or if it was one from last week. But he mentioned, like, the contracts situations brought up at like every conference at this point. And Slot made the point that he'd be more worried if these players weren't playing well. Brandon, how do you feel about the contract situation at this stage, as we're like going on week to week, still no concrete news of any deals being done for these players?
I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I just don't want to think about it. I just want to kind of enjoy it. It's, we could talk we're blue in the face about how we got to this point. We let 3 of our best players run down the contracts at this level, especially when they're still at the peak of their power, especially Van Dijk. That's the one I just cannot for the life of me understand how he's not gotten a new contract. Give him whatever he wants. Like, give him a piece of the club. I don't care. Keep Van Dijk here as long as he can. Like, he's not slowing down anytime soon. I try not to think about it too much because it does give you that little worry in the pit of your stomach every time you start thinking about it, because we are 8 weeks away, 8-9 weeks away before we start having to talk about pre-contracts or whether somebody's going to get somebody of that caliber for free, which just makes me also very sick to my stomach. But I think, like Slot's saying it right. Like, if they weren't playing well, there would be a lot more worry. I mean, they're still playing for the crest. They're still doing their jobs. They're putting in great performances. I mean, Mo with a goal and assist at the weekend, Virgil quietly, dominating a game, because he just quietly dominates every single game he plays now. We kind of forget that he's like a 9 out of 10 every single game instead of like a 7 out of 10. He's 9 out of 10 guaranteed every game. It's like, as long as they're putting in the performances and still putting in the effort, like, I think the deals are going to get done. At least 2 out of 3. Like, Mo's the only one that I'm up in the air about whether that gets done or not. I think Trent and Virgil get done. Like, I just for some reason, I'm just holding on to hope the best I can here, as like those 2 will get done.
Fingers crossed. And before I ask Toby the last question for this segment, just again want to take time to acknowledge the chat and everyone watching. Thank you for joining these streams. Thank you for watching, and thank you for participating. If you do have any questions or comments, please put them in the chat, and we'll be happy to bring them up throughout the stream. And Toby, we'll branch over towards this weekend's Arsenal match, but the branch I want to wrap up with the contract talk that will lead into it is about injuries. We know Arsenal have had a lot of injuries, but with this contract situation, is there any worry that, let's say, Trent, Van Dijk, or Salah pick up an injury that's a serious injury, and then Liverpool, while we're hearing that they're negotiating with all three of them, go, actually, sorry, took too long for this contract, and we don't offer them a contract because of injury.
Yeah, so I think the main concerns, or I think two concerns in my opinion, are Van Dijk and Salah with the injuries. Van Dijk just because injury, or I believe it's an ACL injury a couple years back, so that's always a concern. He played a different position than Salah, but it's always important to highlight ACL injuries. Salah, with how old he is, considering that he's about like 32, about to turn 33, and forget to mention the position he plays as well is a little bit more physically demanding. He's running more up the pitch than Van Dijk. So of course, I think there are some concerns wise with Salah. Considering that he's getting to that age where you start questioning things, it's a little bit more understandable why Liverpool hasn't given him a new contract. I do that contract I'm a little concerned about, considering that he has a total of 10 goals and assists this season. That's probably the most we've had in our biggest playmaker on the team so far. So it's not something to brush off for sure. But you can totally see why Liverpool hasn't given him a contract yet, just because, like, hey, he is 32, about to turn 33. You don't want to offer him a contract and then like his numbers just start dropping. So, of course, there's always concerns there with injuries, but I think there's a right to be concerned.
Yeah, definitely didn't want to bring up those jujus, Robert, so apologies for that. Hopefully, health and fitness for the whole squad as long as possible, forevermore. But it is an interesting situation with these contracts where God forbid an injury does happen to these players, just personally and for the team. But it's a really interesting situation because we always feel like the players have the most power, but it could flip on a dime if they get an injury. That's something that I feel like it almost like in American sports, especially back in the day, like NBA, the whole thing was like securing a big contract, just getting the years on your contract to guarantee payment. But now it seems like there's been this trend of running contracts down so that you can command more on a sign-on bonus, et cetera, et cetera. So I wonder if the potential injury crisis that's hitting multiple teams across Europe might give players pause for thought when negotiating contracts moving or running contracts down moving forward. But that being said, again, get those jujus out of here. Sorry, Robert. Colin, we have a very big game this week, and we have a big game tomorrow, and we're definitely not dismissing that. As we all know, the Nottingham Forest is a slap in the face to remind you your next game is always the biggest game. But as we will not have a chance to talk about the Arsenal game pre-match on Star Stripes Anfield Nights, since it's only once a week stream, we will mention the Arsenal game now. Colin, how are you feeling about the Arsenal match going into it? They've picked up a lot of injuries. I think Calafiori might be the latest, but Odegaard's out. Saka, we'll see if he's out. Saliba will be out from the red card. And that's from the top of my head. The big boys injured for Arsenal. Do you fancy our chances going to the Emirates this Sunday?
Yeah, and actually, the biggest name out of all those, I think, is Saliba. To me, I think he's the most important to what they do. I think he's a really good defender, and I think he causes teams a lot of in the same. Now, I don't think he's better than Virgil van Dijk, but in the same way that Virgil van Dijk, it causes teams to kind of change what they do to kind of adapt to how colossal he is. I think that teams do kind of change away from Saliba in that way. I think that they kind of game plan around trying to get around him rather than to try to pin him up and go through it. So I think I do really fancy our chances. I think I love that Arne Slot has really adopted a policy of, hey, we're just playing our best 11, whoever's healthy. Like that's who's playing the game. The Champions League game tomorrow, the game on the weekend. Like whoever's healthy and is the best 11, that's who we're playing. We're not, we're not really we're not rotating in the same way that that Jurgen would have. This game tomorrow, Jurgen would have rotated 8 or 9. In between a Chelsea and an Arsenal weekend, bookended weekend games. So with that, I do really fancy the chances. I think especially as well a couple games after the international break, which I do still think that we really struggle with. I think we really struggle coming off international breaks. I thought we saw a little bit of that at the weekend with Chelsea. So I think by the time that this next weekend rolls around, I think we'll be fully back, kind of playing as a group as we can, as we've showed previously this season, and I expect a win for sure.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards that now. Definitely can't take it for granted or get too hyped or ignorant over what Arsenal can do. They've definitely built up their squad in the past few years. Arteta has had them playing well. But it does seem like they finally caught the injury bug after not having it for a few seasons now. And as you said, Saliba out is huge. I think Calafiori, if he is injured, which most likely looked the case, starting Zinchenko against Salah, I don't think he has ever had a good game against Salah, knock on wood. But they've already conceded, I think it was 8 goals in the Premier League. They've scored 15, so obviously they're still up there. And they've had, for me, I'll be on their side on 2 of those red cards. I thought they were harsh, not the last one. But so that definitely hurts their goal their goal ratio, goal difference. Excuse me, brain fart there. But it does seem like this is the time to get at them. They're not going to have their strong first line of defense up there. But Brandon, do you think that being the case, that Arsenal doesn't have their strongest defense out there, that they have been conceding, we could face the situation where Arteta absolutely just closes up, parks the bus? He's done it against Man City before and just preys on a counterattack, really trying to foil Arsenal or foil Liverpool? Or do you think this is going to be an open game that Liverpool can take by the neck?
Well, I always feel like with Arsenal, it just, no matter what the intentions are, it just turns into an open game and becomes very fun to watch, especially if you're a neutral. It becomes a heart attack when you're a Liverpool fan. But especially if Zinchenko's in the game, you can't park the bus with Zinchenko against Salah. It's just impossible. If that's a guaranteed goal for Salah if Zinchenko starts. Zinchenko's an okay player. I don't rate him that much personally. I think he's a mid-table player at best. But Salah makes him look like a League 2 defender every time they play against each other. So, I'm chomping at the bit for that. But yeah, I just don't see Arteta doing that. Maybe later in the season, I could see that becoming a thing where there's not as many points to pick up still. And it's we really need at least a point out of this game to continue a title charge. I think early in the season, I don't think he'd be willing to park the bus just yet. Could be wrong, but I just think it will turn into a fun, flowing game. And I always back us to win every single game. So we're going to get the job done. It's guaranteed. It's a Brandon guarantee. So take it with a grain of salt.
God would, fingers crossed, but I'll take it, Brandon. I definitely appreciate yours and Kyle's confidence in this one. Toby, how do you feel about the Arsenal game? And despite all the defensive injuries, Arsenal still have some quality, and offensive injuries. They still have some quality players. How are you feeling about the Arsenal match, and who are the danger players for the team, for Arsenal, that you think we need to lock down, much like Cole Palmer was locked down at this past weekend?
Yeah, well, Brandon said it, so it means we're gonna win, right? But yeah, I'm with Colin and Brandon on this one. You can't take Arsenal lightly, of course, but they do have injuries and they do have the Saliba red card, so it's just I have trouble seeing what they're gonna do well, or particularly how they're gonna play. Which I'm very curious to see what they're gonna do against Liverpool. I believe Sunday. Key players. I was actually doing some research on this. This is a big one. I know Saka, he's out, but he has 7 total assists this season. So I mean, with him being out, they're missing a big chunk of that production. Key players, I definitely would say Kai Havertz, because he has a total of 5 goals and assists this season, plus a 4.4 expected goal average. Gabriel Martinelli, can never sleep on him. He has about 4 goals and assists, but I always say Martinelli, he's a sneaky player. He always finds a way to sneak into the box, so you can't sleep on him either. But yeah, as far as just what Arsenal do, I'm not sure exactly how well they're going to play against Liverpool. So I think I like our chances in this game.
Yeah, it's as you said, I think I like our chances as well. It's definitely, if we're going to play Arsenal, this is the time to do it. You never wish injuries on anyone, but you got to take advantage of that when it comes. But they still do have the players that can hurt you. As you said, Havertz has been in good form this season. As much as he gets a lot of hate, he does have good numbers. Martinelli, as you said, always a tricky player, someone that Klopp always praised. We've seen him tear up the Trent a few times, and that right-hand side of our defense. And Trossard's another one who's been a pretty solid option off the bench, and probably start against the weekend. But they definitely have the set pieces. Can't forget about the set pieces with Arsenal. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Definitely. Real quick. We've gone through most of the topics tonight, so we'll go as long as we can, probably another 10 minutes or so. But if you do have any questions, please throw them in the chat. We'll be happy to answer them. It'll help us give some stuff to chat about as we wrap up the stream. But Colin, this is kind of this part of the fixture list. I think everyone looking at it was like, this is the big week, the Chelsea, the Leipzig, the Arsenal, especially in the Premier League. The Leipzig game sandwiched in between with the Premier League. If we get through this, we still have Brighton in the Premier League. We have them in the EFL Cup. And then, as Toby mentioned earlier, Leverkusen and Aston Villa. So we still have another sandwich of 4 fixtures that are definitely difficult, but this is probably the one that most fans were looking at, the Chelsea, Leipzig, Arsenal week, right after the international break. We have the EFL Cup round right after that, so that is the next midweek match after the Arsenal game. Are you seeing it as just the case of get through this weekend, hopefully get maximum points and take a break against Brighton a bit? Or are you just saying, or do you think it's just like one game at a time, best squad possible?
I think it is one at a time, best squad possible. I think the worry is that by the time that we get to that Brighton game, that it almost necessitates rotation, just based on minutes in the legs. This being the Star Stripes Anfield Knights, the American stream. This is a classic trap game, brother. This is a going into an unranked team as the number 3 seed in the country and losing it. This game worries me actually more than the other ones. I think especially after it's easy to get up for a game against Arsenal on the weekend. It's easy to be motivated to go play that. To go play a midweek, an EFL Cup against Brighton, who, I think they're fifth? They're fifth in the table, in the Premier League table currently. But still, that's not a Manchester United. That's not like a natural rivalry game. And I think that just mentally, you try to get up for the Arsenal game, for the Chelsea game, for Champions League, and there just is naturally a let off. It just, I think, is human nature. And I think Brighton will probably be banking on that. And that worries me. I care, like I'm sure the rest of the guys, I care less about that competition than the others. Doesn't mean I still don't want to win. I certainly do, but if there's any one that has to go first, I guess that's the one. But ideally you play the strongest team possible again, and we win. I think that's got all the hallmarks of a classic trap game.
Yeah, it's definitely that banana peel that could be there, and definitely one I don't want to step on because I'm always like, I like the EFL Cup. I think the League Cup is like, if you win that tournament, it's a trophy to celebrate in February. It's one in the bag. Like the habit of winning trophies for me is you can never undervalue that, and that ultimately that's what we're all going to remember as supporters. That's what the players are going to remember. But Brandon, how are you feeling about this next string of fixtures? Do you think it's a case, like we talked about it before, where you said start the best lineup as possible, but seeing Slot already making little adjustments, I know it was travel based. Do you think he's learned from that Nottingham Forest defeat? And do you think his changes against West Ham in the EFL Cup previous round, when he put it in the likes of Diaz, do you think we're possibly going to see a little bit more of, as you said, best starting lineup, but that might mean who's like fit and ready? Do you think we're going to see that tinkering in the side?
I would think so, especially if we're talking about that Brighton game. I think the next couple of games were kind of more set in stone. We're heading into such a incredible fixture run. I mean, we've got Leverkusen, we've got Madrid, we still have Man City to play, we've got the Arsenal game, obviously. We've got all the big games coming up. I think the best squad match is not always the best players. It's always, I think as you're kind of saying, is the best players available at this moment. And I think that Brighton game, I'm kind of with Colin. I think I've said it to you a couple of times, with the League Cup, is if we make it to the semifinals, I want to win. If we go out before the semifinals, I'm not super bothered about losing it. Obviously, it's nice. Usually when we get the young kids, I just wish we could get a Tranmere or a Newport County instead of always getting Premier League teams every single time we get drawn in this competition. So maybe we could have a game where we could actually rotate properly and not have a big game or scalp hunters and stuff like that. I think Slot will learn. I think this is going to be the biggest test of the Slot regime so far, is moving forward the next few weeks, about how much his ideals have really worked into the squad. Obviously, Konate's made a couple mistakes in the past few weeks. If he's growing from that, obviously we can't have a mistake like that on Sunday or Saturday. Wait a second, when's the Arsenal game? Saturday or Sunday? Sunday. Yeah, we can't have a mistake like that in a game of that magnitude. And we need to see how much he trusts the rotational players in big moments as well. Chiesa, when he's healthy, how often is he actually coming in and playing important minutes and not just giving Salah a break in cup competitions or the last 5 minutes of a game? How often can Quansah displace Konate and, maybe spring forward and make it where it's a big head-scratching decision every single game who plays Konate or Quansah? Getting Bradley in the game a little bit more, or getting in the game. Obviously, he can't because he's hurt right now, but getting those players and getting them more trusted, getting used to the system, playing real minutes and not just kind of half minutes.
Yeah, 100%. And Toby, on that line of trusting the squad players, I think this is probably going to be Slot's probably biggest decision in the forwards department moving forward with Jota's injury. He said it's bruised ribs. We don't know how long he's going to be out. He's not traveling to Leipzig, but this leaves the option, and Chiesa's out, so this leaves the option of Salah, Diaz, Gakpo, and Nunez. Who do you think is going to be the starting three, against Leipzig and Arsenal?
Yeah, so starting with Leipzig, starting the front three, of course, you're going to have Salah because I don't think you have depth around the right wing. Center, I think Nunez, for sure. because Jota's out. The left wing is going to be very interesting. I have a theory that Gakpo will be getting more of the starts in these tournament-like games, just because what we've seen from him in the Euros and what we've seen from him in the last game of the EFL Cup against West Ham, and some of the previous Euro Champions League games as well. So Gakpo seems to play well in these tournament games. So in theory, I would imagine him getting a start. He did start against last week, didn't he?
Yeah, Chelsea. Yeah.
Yeah, Chelsea. Okay, so yeah, I'll stick with Gakpo just because just to continue my argument. As far as Arsenal goes, I do think we'll see the change with Gakpo with Diaz. Diaz has been getting a lot of these league games, and we've seen in these cup games as well that it's his normal he's normally getting rested. So I believe Diaz in the league and Gakpo in the Champions League tomorrow.
Okay, but Nunez starting both.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I'll wrap up the stream with one more question each for the panelists who have happily joined me tonight, or at least I'm happy they joined me tonight. But if you do have any last second questions or comments, please do get them in the chat. We will bring them up and address them before we close the stream. And thank you for watching. Thank you for participating. We really do appreciate everyone who joins us on these Tuesday night streams. Colin, I feel like for me personally, I remembered asking what scoreline predictions were before the Nottingham Forest game, and I have not asked that question since. And instead, I have asked, who do you think is going to score, and who do you think is going to be the biggest player of the next match? So, with that in mind, who do you think is going to score tomorrow, and who do you think is going to be man of the match? And Arsenal, the double.
Oh, so twice. Okay. I think scoring tomorrow will be Darwin Nunez. In fact, I may bet it. I feel strongly about that one. Man of the match, Gravenberch. I think the German game's pretty open. I think it leaves itself susceptible to a real strong midfield performance. I'm going Gravenberch tomorrow as man of the match. I think on the weekend, I think Van Dijk will be the man of the match. And I think scoring... Yeah, I think scoring will be Mo. I'm imagining a penalty.
Okay. Brandon, how about yourself?
Tomorrow, I see Mo getting the goal, and I'm going with Colin there on Gravenberch getting the man of the match. This game seems tailor-made for him getting the man of the match. And I'm also going to agree with him on the weekend. It seems also like a tailor-made. If Liverpool win, Virgil was the man of the match, like just being immense, probably heading balls clear, at the death and stuff like that. Just being as calm and cool as you like. Scoring-wise, though, I think Darwin gets a goal on the weekend. I think it'll be one of those moments where we're like, this is why we bought him, and it'll be that huge, we're all behind Darwin again moment. And hopefully it can become a sustainable thing. But I think Darwin at the weekend with Virgil getting man of the match. Who'd I say? Mo to score tomorrow and Gravenberch to get man of the match.
Okay. And then real quick, if anyone wants to throw in their goal scorers and man of the match predictions in the chat, please do. We'll bring that up. Robert, you see the Madrid game. I caught the app highlights, much like Toby. I checked and gone 2-0 Dortmund. Sweet. Next thing you know, I was like, oh, 3-2. Wait, 4-2. Oh, 5-2. Okay. That was my experience. If anyone watched it, feel free to shout out. But Toby, I'm going to jump in. I'll let you have the last say on man of the match and goal scorers. I'm going to go with Virgil van Dijk for tomorrow. I think I called Konate on the previous Champions League match, and when he scored, and he was very upset because Gravenberch got the man of the match. So I'll do the same, or I'll flip. I'll give him man of the match I think he'll score again. I think he likes the European fixtures. I think that's where he scored most for us. So I'll give him the goal, and maybe definitely I'll go with Cody again because, as you said, I'm on that train of Cody doing well in cup games. Arsenal this weekend, I'm going to go with Salah, man of the match, Salah goal, and Nunez goal, hopefully. How about yourself, Toby?
Yeah, so tomorrow I'm gonna start with man of the match before I forget about Gravenberch. I'm gonna go with Colin and Brandon on this one. I just think he played well Sunday, but I think he's gonna be a little quote unquote pissed that he didn't win man of the match on Sunday. So he's gonna want to play well tomorrow. As far as scoring, who scores first, I'm gonna go with Nunez. I've been very critical of Nunez the last couple weeks. Played some well Sunday, but I do think he needs to prove himself, or feels the need to prove himself, and by doing that, he'll score a goal tomorrow. And then on Sunday, I think it's gonna be Mo. Just like as I stated earlier, he has a total of 10 goals and assists this season. He is our biggest playmaker. Yeah, and I just think he's gonna be the guy that gets the goal for us.
All right, yeah, I think we're all in agreement there with at least appreciating Gravenberch and Mo stepping up big against Arsenal. Does seem to show up in the big games. Jay Muse, thank you for asking the question. I'll throw this to the panel. Anyone who wants to answer it, jump in. Are we worried about Chiesa's long-term health?
I'm not as worried about his long-term health as I am about his short-term health. I think this is a matter of like getting him up to a speed in terms of his like fitness and consistency levels. And then once he achieves that, I'm not really worried about it. But until he gets there, I am worried about it.
Anyone else thoughts on Chiesa long-term injury? Or long-term health, not long-term injury. Knock on wood.
Yeah, I'm with Colin. I think I read before we jumped on the stream that Slot said that's more so getting him up to speed rather than an injury. So as of right now, I'm just kind of going to throw my hands up and say I don't really know, but I would like to throw that out there. Slot did say that this is kind of from what I read was that this is more of a him getting up to speed rather than an injury.
No, I agree with that, Toby. I saw the conference earlier when I was making lunch on my lunch break, and yeah, it seemed like he was like Chiesa has a long-term contract, so we're not too concerned. Short-term, as you said, we're getting him up to speed. Kind of reminds me of like Coutinho kind of easing in that Klopp did. Klopp kind of Robertson and pick a player under Klopp. There were very few that jumped right in. Diaz is off the top of the head, and Van Dijk and Alisson, but Chiesa certainly got enough cover to ease his way into the squad and get up to speed. But all right, Jamie is going with the 3-2 LFC tomorrow as well. Brandon, any last thoughts?
Not really. I don't have much for you tonight. Just up the Reds. Never walk alone. 2 wins this coming week. We'll be talking next week about those 2 wins. We're guaranteeing that. I'm guaranteeing that. If it doesn't happen, you can come find me. I'll give you my address. You can beat me down. I don't care. Bring it on. I'll fight you in the yard. It's Ohio, baby. That's what we do.
All right, cannot say it better than that. So thank you once again. I only say this once a stream, but really appreciate everyone that watches, that joins these Tuesday night streams. If you do like the content, please like, share, subscribe. Definitely helps the channel. But Brandon said it. Everyone, have a great rest of the week. Hopefully we all have smiles on our faces next Tuesday. Until